Alright. Yeah, that button worked. At least I think it does. I think it did. Cool, 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 cool. So I'm gonna use all my numbers here to track. Yes, yes, I get it. Neat. Wait, that's the thing I actually want to close. Yeah. UFOs! Hello! How's it going, buddy?
How's it going?
Oh, hi, you're
Is
also
there a
in
bunch of
here.
background noise?
Not too much. Not too much. Sound a little bit
I know
muffled,
I'm
so I'm gonna adjust your audio.
a little bit loud.
No, a little bit muffled. Kind of like you're eating the mic, or either that or you're facing away from it.
I'm just holding my phone in front of me, but I'll probably have to mute occasionally because I'm still at work.
I got you. I got you. Alright, Hufos, were you one of the people in the Battle Braunstein?
I was not.
Ah, damn. Damn, damn, damn. I had talked to some of the folks who were in there.
But
My nose is so itchy.
I'm
What the hell?
I'm wanting to kind of take a stab at it myself and like
It looks like a ton of fun. Let's see here. Alright, so I'm gonna switch. I go to that's a sword. The sword yes, the sword of Mos Kingster. There we go. One of the players recovered a sword, a giant magical sword wielded by a guardian inside of a black pyramid that had transported itself to a Fey Hollow. And they fought the guardian inside, snagged the sword, and they stuck it inside like a magical fucking cocoon, basically, for a month. And it spat out something that the barbarian could use, and they've been very happy with it. Mental sarcophagus, return to slab, war song. Eat drinker, tune eat, the sword of Mos Kangsta. So I have some other things I need to add to this. Probably the last time I'm going to be using Canva, or probably, yeah. I shouldn't say the last time I'm going to be using Canva. I should say... How do I put this? Alright, we have people. Argo Barger Bar, Edie Broders was in it. Streisand would like the Battle Rossings because it forces referees to prepare their wargame tier and engage in game design at that level of play. Hey, Brown Wizard. Nice to see you. Brown, you gotta get inside the Discord. In fact, I'm gonna drop a link to the Discord for anybody who has not. It's in the bottom. But just in case. There you go. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff going on with the Battle Braunstein. I am very interested in it. I think the most attractive part of it right now is kind of the idea with patrons to begin with was that you could kind of skip to the wargame tier. Skip to basically the domain map. I think there's quote concerns to be had about it, about how people are going to replicate it. As per Jeffro's request, I'm going to put those basically to the side for the next 3 to 6 months, so that we can go through people playing it before criticizing it. There's that again. Because if people get really invested in an idea and like the meme energy is around it and it seems fun and it doesn't fall apart on the first session, then there's no serious harm in doing it. You might as well try it out.
that's the thing. Is just gonna do it.
Yeah. So I could talk about things that are foreseeable problems later. I could talk about them now, or just I have no. I'm not going to do that. I could talk about general problems that I have with giving people instructions. Spell scroll. We'll just do that. The spell scrolls need to be redone for Chillness Valley. A very specific way that they work in 5th edition, and we're going to fix that. During the Sleepy, there you go. I rarely get on this, just FYI. Honestly, the primary point is to join streams like this. Brown Wizard. Fix your rolls here. There you go. Should have access to everything now. I'll give you the referee chat as well. Yeah, so my general things, anytime one of these new experiments comes up, I get worried, or no, I predict that people who kind of get it, speak our alignment language, are used to this style of play in some capacity, whether they've been running grand campaigns, whether they're really familiar with wargaming, or they are, or they're just kind of like naturally attuned with faction play or patron play. Maybe they've done something akin to that in the past, we're using retired player characters and such. Then they have to provide input in the game, they have a kind of intuitive understanding of what's going on here. I play a lot of Total War Warhammer, and that informs a lot of my wargaming opinions, because as it's set up in most of the Total War scenarios are set up with factions that have their own unique win conditions, they have their own mechanics, that are still connected to the broader game. They're not so deviant that you don't know how to interact with them. They have unique quests and objectives that can be carried out throughout the campaign that basically forces armies to march across the map and get into conflict with other nations. There's little mini quests or mini rewards that pop up for claim this settlement from this other faction who you might not be at war with, for an extra 800 gold or an extra 2,000 gold or something like that. And you say, damn, that's another 4 units. I might as well go for it. And so that's my familiarity with it. You have John Mollison, who's familiar with just tabletop wargaming in general, and an absolute beast at it. He's doing a lot of solo play at the moment. You have all the guys who participated as patrons throughout Brovenloft, or Brovenloft is a big one. You have people who are running as in the Minus Mandolf domain throughout the campaign. You have all these people who have these different experiences that let them plug in to something that everybody sort of intuitively grasps already. Like we've been training for like a real Braunstein for the past 4 years. And puts them in a really good position to interact with the rest of the game. So that's a great thing. My concern comes in, and this has happened pretty much every time so far, is to get to people who are outside the movement, try to plug this into their game, or try to start a new campaign around it, and it explodes pretty quickly. Because what they lack is the seed that's supposed to actually spread the gameplay outwards without having to play in somebody else's campaign first.
Yeah. And that's the difference between how I do it and how everybody else does it. They want to start fresh, and it's like I run after the campaign is like run out of steam.
Mm-hmm. And you're like reinvigorating it every single time.
We get like it yeah, right. It's like literally nobody cares about this part of the campaign map. They literally like everything else in the campaign better. So, but now they're thinking about the strategic situation every day and what they wish they could have done differently and what they would do differently if they had a chance to jump back in. Mm-hmm. So it's very cruel because now it's eating their brains.
It's going to continue if any of those people play as player characters. Now that the overall events are kind of set in stone throughout these progressive months, if any of those people play as player characters, that's going to intensify as the game goes on, and that I'm so curious to see how that's going to play out.
We we played. I detailed in the session report that
Let me pull
we
that up.
didn't
I'm gonna drop that in the
we went
chat here.
into we didn't go in the future. Like like we we're missing a session for Thanksgiving, and now we're gonna play again probably next week. And so if I declare that, like, oh yeah, that session took 2 weeks, then and we're playing the immediate, basically the next, picking up where we left off, which is, mm,
There,
there's no
drop the
time
blog
loss in
post in the
integration.
chat. Sorry, can you say that last part again?
Um, there's no lag, there's no skip, there's no catching up, and there's no integration because I don't. Right now, these events are so big. I don't care about the PCs, and I don't care about giving them a turn. I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
the players can whine to me and ask for that, but I'm like, sorry, we got bigger fish to fry. I think it's fine. The patrons didn't get a turn all year. Like, why does every tier need a veto or need to insert itself or insinuate itself into every other arena of play? As the
Yeah,
referee, I use my judgment to say, well, it's Kevin Sambieta. It's a soap opera move. It's like, okay, listen, we're changing the context to this other frame, and we'll get back to this other, when it matters.
yeah,
Um, if we get a decisive victory at the war game tier, then yeah, then you either switch back to the PCs there, or you're going to switch back to some other part of the map where that's more interesting. It's win-win no matter how it plays out.
yeah. If you need to participate at the level of, or in association with, Doucheland, right? You could be somebody. You could be an envoy of Doucheland adventuring in some other hex, or trying to recover troops from the Trilopolis region, as opposed to this other place, or trying to recover a spaceship from outside the sun
Right,
or
like
outside the
I
ship.
consider it to be a real flaw that the tiers of play created basically a separate campaign.
Hmm.
That's not an ideal outcome. I would rather use a different session Braunstein to integrate Dissembork with Doucheland with Trolopulus and the United Caveman Federation, which is all fan favorite type entities of the game. I don't want this thing to be completely separate from the broader campaign world. I want to I want to be part of the cinematic universe. The whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and that's completely reasonable. That's what everybody wants to be able to do right now. You see, Daredevil doesn't need to be part of the Avengers. Yeah, that's probably a pretty good approach to it. I've been having arguments recently on whether or not different tiers of play actually exist, which has been annoying, but it has solidified some language that I have for figuring out what kind of campaigns are real and what kind of campaign participation is justified. Because we had that argument, or not that argument, we had that discussion a couple weeks ago where we figured out that like only two or three campaigns are using patron orders on like distinct turns
yeah,
because those
and
referees were
I,
trying
I
to manage the intake of new orders.
and I do have to just say that I was insulting your use of turns at one point, but I'm actually going to use them. I'm actually going to try to use them this next time. I'm trying to going to be more careful with the timekeeping because we have some significance events that are unknown, and we've also got some patrons who are like, "Oh, I should have tried to do more than one thing because it was boring when I only did one thing and it didn't work." And so, by increasing the fog of war and being a little more fastidious, I don't know how much it's going to slow things down, but I want that pressure of like, dang, things are moving and I have to commit with incomplete knowledge. I want
Yeah.
to increase that. We were more of a party game last time, But a lot of these smaller factions are kind of on a knife edge, and if
If they
and it
don't
would be
make
great
every
if a
order
couple of them just
count,
went
they're
down
going
in
to
flames.
potentially get wiped out by, well, I might say no fault of their own, but really, it technically is still their fault if they don't.
There's consequences for the decisions that they made last week. There's very
Mhm.
natural ones that insinuate themselves.
Order received. Assuming
That's the thing that I'm really interested in. I mean, that's the whole reason I made those cards was because I wanted to, both for my players' downtime actions, which are once a week at the most, with one exception. If they play more than once a week, they could get more than one downtime action. It's rare, but it can happen. And if they, and then the patrons get one order per month. And the point of giving them this ticket to fill out was to let them know this is everything that you're. This is basically everything that you're allowed to tell me. If it doesn't fit
Right.
on this thing, it's out. If you don't include the roles, I'm not going to worry about them. If you don't include your contingency plan, yes, then whatever general or officer you sent out to accomplish XYZ is just going to follow that to the letter, or maybe he'll lose morale, but that's it.
Right. Here's why I didn't use that at all in the session process, because
Hmm?
none of us knew what we were doing yet.
Right. No, you said it was like more like a party game.
Leave it wide open.
Yeah.
waiting orders.
It's like that first session of sitting down with like a hex and shit game, and people are maybe not everybody understands that. I guess going back to this, understands the turn order yet, and
We have secured
and so people are just kind of doing things because they have to. They feel like they have to figure out the mechanics of this action, that action, that action. Then you find out that somebody's been doing 3 times as much as the other players, and that's the point at which you like put the brakes on a little bit. Like, okay, but now we kind of have a better. Oop! I just lost connection for a second. Sorry, what did you say, Jeffro?
Yeah. Like there's sort of exploratory play, and then there's game design.
We're securing zone eclipse.
D&D campaigns, and they can go off the rails. And you don't need a system for everything. Like I don't want to. I mean, I love Alexander McChrist, but I don't want a system for. I don't want an answer for everything.
Yeah.
I like having blank spots in the room in the rules so that I can put things back and make it AD&D again when it Gygax himself says it's fun to get weird, but like when you've strayed so far from the game, the referee needs to like rein it back in again at some point.
You need some mechanism for saying, okay, that Boot Hill excursion was fun, but now we're going to return to the milieu, and we're going back to the. Sorry, the guns don't work in amber.
Yeah. Oh man, the face-to-face players were so bitter about that. They were like, they loved being able to run the table and kill ancient dragons and steal its eggs with these blunderbusses that they made A-team style, an A-team montage, right? And it's like, oh yeah, no, that doesn't work over here. When you're back home.
Sorry, we gotta play D&D again at some point, and you have dragon eggs, so now you got the next thing to work with.
And I'm telling, I'm the only person that cared about this scenario. No, like nobody was like, Jeffro, we've got to play this scenario. But like the answer of like, yeah, well, what if someone did the Khaleesi thing and had dragon eggs that they hatched and force grew into adults with some kind of spell? Like, has anybody ever wanted to do that? Like, it's pretty kick-ass that we're able to play at that level and adjudicate what happens. You had to have the full political situation, a full model. That is set up in such a way that you can run it without wearing yourself and the players out. So now we can answer the question. What happens when some redneck village in a D&D game gets control of 2 dragons? Is it they play very differently than I expect. I expected Steddington to just be burned down with lightning bolts, and it's not. it's not the case at all. You know, a group of 10 giants is gonna like throw boulders at them, and it's gonna be, you know, they're not gonna run them. They're not gonna clean the map, you know, completely. And so it's surprising. Anybody that wargamed it out would know this, of course, but you know, it's a Jeffro game. You know, I don't wargame out until we play it, and so you know, we are wargaming it out. You know, that's. But Chris could have told you if he sat down and thought about it, but he didn't know what we were doing until he showed up, so he couldn't do it.
Oh damn.
Ready.
But no, it's really exciting because once we have stuff like instructions, I think once we have instructions for people on how to replicate this style of play, I think they're going to get progressively more excited about everything about what's possible with these kinds of games, because there's going to be other scenarios out there. There's going to be other scenarios that they care about, you know?
Right, like we could run, if we get a good scenario, we could run it as a con game. We could do like David Wesley, and we could keep running it and tweaking it to make it a better con game from there. Honestly, I think people would rather play in a broken game that is part of a broader campaign continuity that gives them a chance at glory. I think that's just how I see things. Like, why?
I think you're absolutely correct on that. The new players for Chilmus Valley are having a lot more fun now that there's a 16th level cleric with an artifact for teleporting people around the map. All right, it just is funner.
No, you're saying that you're pulling my chain.
No, that was the first thing I gave them. That was the first artifact they found in the campaign.
You know, I made this entire part of the map in order to solve the problem that action you're talking about created in Machador.
Exactly. I was like, because that was my whole big thing. Is I'm used to running 5th edition, right? And I'm used to running primarily higher level 5th edition, with just giving people higher starting levels to begin with. Because I want to give them, because God, the early levels are so boring. No threat of death, but also no loot. Just the worst of all worlds that you never want to even touch it.
Awaiting orders, Commander.
So I started considering them, but what was it? It was some of those recent streams I did where I was talking about the focus of high level play. It seems like the gameplay is flattening when the players get access to certain important assets that you might not expect, you might not like, but that is the game, and then there's a bunch of weird, funky crap that happens as a result that becomes the new focus of the game and the new way in which gameplay is get some variants reintroduced to it. So now there's a question of, okay, we can teleport to this location or that location. We want to teleport to both. What do we do? I don't know how do we make a decision between both? Can we try to teleport to both?
The Macho Man Dog problem to me was, I felt that there should have been 12 factions at his level on the campaign map, because you know the campaign map was blank, right? You know, outside of where he was. It's like, no, we need to draw more map. We need to put 12 people at his level on the board, and they need to be fighting over something. And really, the ultimate thing is, he needs to be so concerned about them that he doesn't care about the 4th level PCs.
Yeah. And that was the big problem with, I've been talking about, that's how big of an objection has that been throughout the last 4 years. Oh, if I was a patron, I would just kill the player characters whenever I felt like it. I would just hire 10 assassins and murder them all. And we know that that's not right.
I think McChris has a rule that says, like, if you're 12th level, then nobody under this level he will not speak to them at all ever.
That's reasonable. Well, we did him a huge solid.
Acknowledged. Securing engine.
By providing that, giving him the pre-game testing.
Engaging.
But yeah, it's difficult, and most people don't know how to interact with this. They've been, as I said earlier, they've been trained wrong
Traffic.
on low-level play, and so they
Acknowledged.
don't know how to anticipate all these other gameplay elements and gameplay variances that are supposed to be par for the course.
I think if you've got enough stuff in the world model that it'll be chaotic enough in the short term, you can't screw it up. But there has to be enough stuff. The problem with one-to-one time and continuous play is that we lapsed into a habit where the only thing in the campaign were things that were being operated directly by players. Because once you have patrons in the game, have basically, in my opinion, overworked referees, and they're not going to they're just not going to do as much of certain kinds of things.
All of your content becomes like whatever flood of questions the PCs have been putting to you this week, basically.
Yeah, and that's.
All stop.
I mean, I hate to use these particular terms. It's terrible. Well, I won't say world building, but it's not good from a world model. World models like that are dynamic and that are functioning properly. They don't need a lot of referee direction, you know. But if you don't have enough. If you don't have enough elements in the world model, then it will run down.
Yeah.
It's
your player count will increase beyond what you have access to. That was one of the problems with Curator's game. Is he had some people, you might be inclined to think, oh well, Curator had like 30 different patrons. Surely he's got something really cool to work with.
I think he did. I think that was the best. That was the best collection of patrons ever to be together at one time.
It
Possibly
was one of the best collections of players, but I'll let you finish. I'll let you finish.
Yeah, no. It had a density and a quality at that level of the game. It gave Brovenloft a run for its money. Which, if you think about. If that being the case, you know, just spontaneously, that's a tremendous achievement to even come close to that.
Yeah, definitely ambitious. Definitely got a lot done in those few days that he continued playing.
Awaiting orders, Commander.
But when you consider, like, okay, did the campaign have any kind of lifespan? Did it get did it produce really anything of note that we can learn from, or would be desirable to copy from? I think the answer at the end of the day is just no.
Well, no. It produced this. It produced, like, okay, you can't throw anybody into the deep end with this stuff. So it's like, how can you break this down into something that has a tight enough scope?
Yeah, like a technical manual or some methods of generating patrons, some guidelines for how people should do that.
No, I'd say, like, the part I hate is the answering downtime requests on some stupid Discord server, 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. I don't think any referee should necessarily have to endure that in order to enjoy the
benefits of patron play
effects of running patrons.
Yeah.
And I think the Battle Braunstein is a method of getting the patron play without the overload and without the strain on the attention of both the players and the referee.
Right.
Because we could time box it now.
Sure. I think you're still going to need methods of generating these guys for people, especially when it comes to people outside the experience or not used to this experience, or just kind of inexperienced, we'll say.
It's coming.
Making
it's
this
coming.
stuff. Yeah. There's going to be another Curator. It might be just Curator doing it again.
Roger that.
Saying, hey guys, I'm going to try this out.
We'll get it done. Target
No,
locked.
no,
They're
it,
gonna
it
learn
needs.
today.
Well, that was my goal with Battle Braunstein. Was before we went in, it's like I want something that Curator couldn't screw up. That's what I want. I want a method. You know,
Ready.
you're telling me that with
Target locked.
even lowering the scope, that he's still gonna wreck it. That's what you're
Mhm.
saying.
Yes, no, I am. I am saying, well, 100% in the affirmative, he's still going to wreck it. Because I think I said this 2 years ago, and I was told no, and now I'm just doing it. This is my project for the next couple of months.
Set position.
But we will leave that until after the Battleground students concluded
Enemy lock detected.
to say,
Yeah.
hey, here are some things that you could do. Here's the patrons that you can
Gaining fire
have,
control
and here's how
source.
you can make them, like the Battleground did.
Engaging.
And then just putting that out
Enemies
there.
open fire.
Standing by.
'Cause I do think
can
people will
see
screw
what
it
my
up again.
faction. You can see what my faction specifications look like on the blog post. It's
Missile
literally
away.
nothing. It's the same thing as when P. Alexander was running the United Caveman Federation. Everybody was like, "Ooh, you should make a game supplement that shows people how to do that."
Send traffic.
And like he's like, "Okay, I will." And then he ran a series of blog posts that were just the monster manual entries of what he was running.
Waiting for your orders, Commander.
And that's literally, it was basically that and Grug memes, But no, like, for a faction, all I need is like, okay, tell me the leveled characters that are in a town, and tell me how many troops they've got and what the troops are armed with. I get that far and I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm like basically done. The players come in and like embellish all this like
Send your traffic.
all this LARPy stuff that I don't care about. And I don't have to care about it. I'm running the war game part of it, and when they're kibitzing, if they're like
Standing by.
role playing, doing their gay role playing stuff and talking in funny voices, that doesn't
Yeah.
have anything to do with how I run the game.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it colors the way
Locking
things
target.
play out. I don't know why. It's not a pure diplomacy interaction.
Awaiting orders.
It's
Standing in
diplomacy
standing.
plus gay role playing in the context of a freaking war game. You shouldn't be able to mix these three things together and get a good result, but that's exactly what happened last Thursday.
Mm-hmm. Murda, just tag me when it sounded like you had some audio trouble, so I muted you for a sec.
Waiting for your orders, Commander.
Standing by.
But yeah, so it's,
Aye.
and I totally get that. That's the instinct, is you guys are
Locking
used to
target.
doing this style of play, or you're used to running the context in which a style of play like this could happen. But curators like, hey guys, I just came off the 5e. Anybody who comes off like, hey guys, just got off the 5e crowd, just got off the 5e train. What can how do I do this?
All stop.
They're not gonna make it. They're
Send
not
your
gonna make it.
Waiting orders.
Yeah, that's what I saw with the Brown Wizard guy. He's like kicking around, maybe doing something like this, and I was like, oh wait, he's doing it in 5e. Oh well, just never mind. He's not gonna make it.
Order
Yeah.
received.
No, I'm giving him instructions on stuff that came with last stream. Like, hey, every time here's your first adventure video is start with a town, start with a dungeon, start spiderwebbing out from there. And then I gave advice on my previous live stream for what does spiderwebbing look like. Well, every time you make a new location, you add a little note about what somebody else might want from that location. Perfect. Now we have a new way of now you have a new method of spiderwebbing.
Knocked out a module. Negative, Commander.
And it's not hard. In fact, it's the opposite of hard. It's extremely simple.
Locked up.
But it's a matter of like just you have to have that process in front of you immediately, or to start off with, or else you're just not good. You're building on a foundation of sand.
Ready to move. Heading
Low
to that
missiles
position.
reported.
That's the thing I'm worried about for 90% of these people. Is just I think
They're
they're
gonna learn
building on a
today.
foundation of
That did
sand.
some
They're not
damage.
going to be able to make it.
That did some damage.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, they didn't spend a year playing raw in a system that could handle this stuff.
Yeah.
So they haven't, like Curator certainly didn't, and it's like, wait a minute, you
Start with OSC, right?
before we
Power,
played
coming back up. Yes, sir.
Braunstein in our D&D campaign in 2021, we had played 30 sessions where players were wandering all over the campaign map at will.
busy about your
and this whole world had like come into being, and we were thinking about it all the time, and it was being developed incrementally here and there. So when we turned on the Braunstein in July of 2021 with an always-on campaign,
We need to get out of here.
everyone knew who the players were, who the factions were. Everyone knew because they'd been
Get it done.
they had like driven the players crazy for 30 sessions, and so it was literally
Executing your
like
orders.
I didn't have to spend any time explaining the campaign world to anybody because like the session reports were already there. And in that time, like this is where the genesis of the idea. It's like, oh wait,
Ready.
D&D is the campaign rules for chainmail. It's
Back up.
we
Home breach, home breach.
Engaging.
we were
Today.
using the wilderness rules to travel around these 30-mile hexes, and the players had total autonomy to go wherever they wanted. And I'm sitting there looking at chainmail. Chainmail doesn't have that. Chainmail doesn't have
Under attack.
the strategic movement at all.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm irritated at Guys because he's talking about like, yeah, you can even produce battles from a campaign. And I'm like, well, how? You don't explain it anywhere. And I was like, wait a minute. D&D is it. If you could do wilderness travel in D&D for a party, it's the same thing as wilderness travel for a large body of troops. It's no different. It's the same system. So,
Hostile jet.
and I know for a fact, I was afraid
The ship's
when I
down.
ran
Everyone
Dwimmermount
evacuate.
many years ago. I was afraid to let players just wander around the map. The only thing I knew about was Dwimmermount. I didn't know anything about these stupid towns on Alexander McChris's setting, that's aware of nearby the dungeon. And it was like I'm supposed to just let players walk around and make up what happens, really. And yeah, it's not as hard as you think, but if you've never done it, you're gonna be afraid of it.
Yeah.
So the idea that people that have never done that are gonna like, yeah, I'm just gonna run the, or if you can't make up
Changing position.
what happens when you've got random wilderness encounters with players that are moving about at will on a big campaign map. If that makes your mind go blank, well, guess what? The Braunstein is even more freeform and has even less mechanical tools to help you adjudicate and determine what happens. You're in
They're firing at us.
you're in something that's outside the scope of normal D&D play, unless you're in a miniatures battle, and then all the combat rules are fine. But like everything else, it's very I don't even know if you can make rules that really nail all this stuff. I'm not even sure. Like I certainly don't want them.
Right.
I'm happy with it being freeform.
Absolutely. Well, what good would they do you at this point? You guys have mostly done okay. We've had 2 table flips. That's a surprisingly low
when something
amount.
works so well that you don't solve something that is a problem. That's going to be a problem a year later.
Right.
Component destroyed.
You become a victim of your own success sometimes.
No, that's completely fair.
Yes, command.
I
Internal
think,
damage.
how do I put this? I
Module
think...
lost.
Yeah, so when I'm talking about the value of these technical
Internal
instructions,
damage.
I think that they are going to be just things that people can say,
System lost.
hey, I'm too much of I don't know how to read. I'm illiterate, okay? I'm illiterate, and I don't know how to read. I don't know how to compile the instructions from these different blog posts.
Module
I'm not
lost.
used to doing this, and I think I'm afraid I'm going to screw it up. Can somebody give me something that illustrates the successes of these different campaign elements without freaking me out?
Yeah. Okay.
Or putting me in
The training wheels.
yeah.
Training. The training wheels is playing D&D raw in a 1-to-1 campaign for 30 sessions. Go do. Don't start with these freaking patrons and Braunsteins. Learn how to play the game. No, you're not going to get there. That's what it was for me. Go learn all the other stuff you need.
Yeah.
Learn all the other stuff.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing. What was the tweet the other week about? Hey, the difference between grand campaigns can still start in a tavern. The difference between grand campaigns and conventional campaigns is not in that one starts in a tavern and the other one starts with a map the size of Chile with 30 patrons in them. The difference between grand campaigns and conventional campaigns is that grand campaigns are allowed to scale naturally, but they still start from those 4 paragraphs in DMG page 86 about you're going to start with a town and you're going to start with a dungeon, and then you're going to move up to a city and then a country and a subcontinent, and it's going to keep expanding until you get to planets, dimensions, and planes of existence.
Yeah, no, Gygax was a genius there because, you're not going to need it. It's a classic deal. You're not going to need it. You need to think about like what you need to think about right now, and you need honestly, you need to get to know your players. You need to allow their desires to hone your intuition, to train your intuition.
Yeah.
Watch what works, watch what fails. It's something I said over and over in 2020. It's like, when you have the total player autonomy and you put out 10 adventure hooks and the players make up something stupid that they go do instead. They say no to them all, and they're like, no, we would rather travel through the wilderness and engage with random encounters instead. That's telling you a whole lot. That's giving you so much information about where you need to direct your energies, and whatever they pick. And again, when it happens again, when the campaign through 1-to-1 time and the compounding of interest type of events, feeding into each other, when that produces 10 adventure hooks and the players select one, it's so freeing because that the players are getting the game that they want. When we first did that in 2020, I was running long-time DMs who some of them had never seen anybody run a game that way, and for them it was mind-blowing. They were like, I didn't know D&D could be this way. They'd always been in the conventional games, and that by itself.
This might be meat grinder, and nobody has ever seen a 4th level spell unless it's been cast on them.
Yes. But chew on that, Eddie. You could chew on that a while and be the hero of the D&D beach, in your neck of the woods. People will be shocked. Just be shocked.
They're not used to it.
There's kids that call this boomer D&D.
There's players in my campaign who are like, hey, it was really fun when we just fought a bunch of undead last session. Can we just go do that again? Is there a place where we could go fight some undead again? On a map the size of Chile, I'm sure there is. Am I going to tell them no? Why would I do that? I know there's necromancers somewhere out there. I'll just tell them where the fucking necromancers are and they could get going.
There's 6 people that are automatically happy. And if you tried to pressure them to do what you had in mind, like, they're not going to be happy at all.
It's crazy how that turns out.
Part of the map where the battle Braunstein is. It's where I bullied them into playing what I wanted them to play, and they hate it. They can't. Everybody except Dundermoose hates this whole area and would love to see it just go up in flames. There's no nostalgia here. There's no love for it. There's no. Oh, you remember that time? No, they don't. They play anywhere else in the campaign map than here. The only reason they're playing here is because, Oh, that reminds me. Dornell was talking on Geek Gab. He was like, Jeffro wouldn't say what we were doing. We asked him before the game, and he wouldn't say how he was going to do it. It's so I had all these people who didn't know what was happening. I love that.
A lot of the campaign just thrives in the exactly. I was just about to say thrives in that space of the unknown, because stuff can happen that you're not expecting. The whole idea of like a rival adventuring party is such a wild card that get tossed into any dungeon. You're
Yeah.
gonna have an
Oh,
enemy
and
mage in there, maybe, or maybe a friendly
uh,
mage, and you guys can ask some traps that you weren't expecting to.
no, when I ran at Matacon this year,
Hmm.
that was like the only prep I prepped a dungeon, and I because I wanted something special, and I did way more prep than I ever did. I drew a brand new map, and I stocked some rooms, and I rolled in, and it was one person who knew how D&D worked conventionally, and then it was two college girls uh, who who I mean, I don't want to say they were freaks, but like they're just, you know,
Send your traffic.
the culture, you know, it wasn't like
Side
having, you
command,
know,
assuming formation.
six 8 years ago it would have been six guys who they either knew what D&D 3
Forming up,
was, or
Commander.
they knew what BX was. They knew something about it. Or these people knew nothing, and it was
Right.
like, oh, I can't
Copy that.
run
Moving.
the scenario that I thought I was going to run.
Aye, Commander.
But no, when they played in there, and I was just making up
Ready.
like literally like the bottom 10%
Roger
most
that.
typical
Understood.
D&D situations. Something representative, goblins that have kidnapped kids, and there's a troll somewhere with a lot of money. It's very basic, nothing
Yeah,
fancy.
baby's first
To
video
them, it
game.
was all
How
like,
can we help today, Commander?
they don't know what this is. But no, when they got to an NPC party, and the NPC party was like had holed themselves up into a room, and they were exploring. They were clearing away the stuff that had been used to barricade the door, and these spears come out and poke some of their hirelings, and they're like, "Oh my god, it's a group of people that are just like us."
How did they react to that?
They're doing what I literally modeled them on stupid players who play D&D badly and all these types of games, and they were like, "Oh my god, they're in there." Like don't sleep in the dungeon. Like, nope, they do. They always do.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they killed them. They killed them and took their stuff, and it was hysterical. They loved
That's awesome.
interacting with this sort of good. They were the evil universe characters, obviously. So interacting with the NPC party for them was like, oh, these are the good guys.
Stop the ship.
we have a chance to ruin their day.
Let's get them.
It was that encounter was like it was
Proceeding.
totally random from the random tables in the back. I was like, okay, NPC party. Oh yeah, they're sleeping in that room. That's what it's gonna be, and
Understood.
utterly
Traffic.
enchanting. Like the wonder of the situation.
Aye, Commander.
There was this girl,
Get it done.
with using
Understood.
using
Engage.
a pronoun
Copy that,
name
Commander.
that was different or something, right?
Order received.
Um,
Engaging now.
very simple person. They were very nervous. They had no idea what was happening,
Let's
and
be on
they
our
like
range, Commander.
it just gradually warmed up over the course of 6 hours. So that at the end, it was like arguing with the other players of like whether to kill the NPC party, or whether to be friends with. Like, it was very heated
We're ready
debate
when you
between
are,
the two.
Commander.
The veteran player was like, maybe we should be making an alliance with these guys. The other two were like, oh, we could
No,
do this, we
but
could do
they
that.
think of all the stuff they
On
could
way,
have.
Commander.
Yeah. So that one player, like the newest player, was like, all right, we're gonna take all their clothes. I got these sacks. I'm gonna cut holes in the sacks. We're taking all of their stuff. They're gonna walk out of this dungeon in burlap sacks.
We're gonna sell off
And,
every penny.
And that magic user with the hat with the moons and stars on it, she's playing a ranger,
How can we help today,
a good ranger, right? It's like, I want that hat.
That's the price. That's the price of evil. Is come
We're
on.
ready when you are, Commander.
At the
Give me a little
ready.
something,
So, yeah.
something to
Holding here.
satisfy me. Yeah. Okay.
And I love it. It's like, yeah. How how much prep do you need to have a successful game? Like what is it that fires the imagination? It's the stupid stuff. It's the easy stuff.
Yeah.
Being willing to run with it. And I think when Curator went on Dunder Moose, he was talking about the things that worked, and the things that surprised, and it was like, yeah, these little dumb
Aye, aye,
things,
Commander.
that are that derive from the personality of the players in the moment, with the dice and the rules kind of like influencing it, and these choices that sort of subvert your expectations,
Moving out.
and then somehow things all fall together, and it's like, wow, that was amazing. It
Copy that.
shouldn't
Moving.
work, but it consistently happens in D&D games, even even when people don't know what they're doing, which is why I could do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a core skill set that you have to learn. Is not necessarily like, okay, I love my 5x5 grid dungeons, and I like playing around with them. I did it again today, and it saved my bacon because I didn't have a session prepped, and I could just I got to save time at the table rolling up the encounters and room contents instead of the layout mostly, but that's not the stuff that's going to make a grand campaign for you, ultimately. The stuff that's going to do it is this guy found a dragon egg, or this guy found a manticore, and he decided that he wanted to ride a manticore and started asking you a billion questions. Or, sorry, not asking, started telling you what they were going to do in order to accomplish that. And so the Manticore hatchery becomes the focus of the campaign, not King Zaphane's Frost or the Pope coming down and his blessed +0 sword.
Standing by.
And if with its grand history.
How can we help today, Commander?
Have any ships come into port lately with Tyrannosaurus Rex on them?
That's so fucking good. I saw that tweet. I'm like, yes! Everybody can immediately sympathize with those players because they're like, yeah, I would love to play in a game like that.
that was from Harmony Ginger's game.
Mm-hmm.
She posted like I was like she had prepped a murder mystery, and then the players show up and ask that question. And it's like, well, I know what we're doing tonight, and it's not what I prepped.
We're ready
Yeah.
when you are, Commander.
Because they've told you what they're interested in. They've told you the medium is the message, as our mutual friend Rolo says. It's just better. It's just better than whatever you had planned. And occasionally people will pay attention to the stuff that you have planned, or the stuff that they improvised will lead back into stuff that you've planned. Nothing ever really gets truly wasted, I don't think.
No.
But you have limited time in a week, right? And so you might as well give deference to what the players are trying to do, as long as you have some boundaries on like how much time they could soak up for each of these individual activities.
No, well, there's that's something that I
Got you 5x5.
it's definitely part of my personal style as a referee.
Aye, aye.
When I see these things stacking up, these I don't want to say plot elements, but things in the campaign that you're like, okay, we'll revisit this at some point, and then you never revisit it, and you have a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, adventure threads
like-
is the term that I've been
Aye,
using
aye.
recently.
Full power.
What I love about Braunstein's is that you can take all of those threads. You can do a very,
can we do
very,
for you,
very
Commander?
minimal amount of game design of being like, okay, what is that? What is that
Understood.
exactly?
Engaging the enemy.
I said that there was a wizard over here, but what is he exactly? What is he like?
Send your traffic.
Yeah.
Which if you have an elite player, a 5-minute player conference with
Awaiting orders.
like, hey, you got any ideas of what to do with this?
Standing
I
by.
said this was there and this
Go ahead,
happened, and we know that this happened. So what is this? Literally 5 minutes. You're going to be you've got something good. And it's like, okay, let's roll with that.
We're ready when you are, Commander.
But no, you can
Aye, aye,
you have a
Commander.
scenario
Moving out.
where all of these things that the players never
Ready when you are,
revisited,
Commander.
and you as an overworked referee never did anything with, But the Braunstein lets you just bring out all of these things and see where they
Understood.
go
Falling in.
if they
Go
got
ahead,
turned on
Commander.
for a moment, and
Yeah.
it pays off. I feel very strongly that normally anything you introduce in the campaign that is a theme. This is about music. This is about
Awaiting orders,
improvisation and
Commander.
jazz. When you introduce a theme,
We're on our way.
it should be revisited. You know, like if somebody solos,
Go ahead,
you
Commander.
know, uh, well, like particularly if I'm trading fours, if they're doing something, you know, I should use some of
What can
what
we
they
do for
do
you, Commander?
when I get my 4 bars to do my thing, and you know, it should turn into a conversation. So to me, it's you know, the aesthetic that I like in a campaign where we just stack up loose threads ad infinitum. That really is
Acknowledged.
what drives me. You know, like I'll encourage events to play out in such a
Standing by.
way that we leverage things that have been introduced that should not be overlooked. Sure,
Yeah.
but no, these
Aye,
Braunstein events are
Commander.
definitely
Moving
all
out.
about paying off the campaign.
Got you
Like
5 by
we said that
5.
this and this was a thing. We knew that there was a fight
That's a big
coming. These
fight,
dragons have
Commander.
been meaning to kill
Understood.
hill giants
Engaging.
for all. We've been talking about it for months,
Target acquired.
but
Now
not
it's
play
time
it.
to pay up.
Engaging target.
Yeah, it's like
How can we help
you
today,
owe it to
Commander?
them, and this is why, you know, I'm really mad at Curator. Is like he said all this stuff in the campaign, and then these people,
Standing by.
he pulled the plug on it in such a way that they never got the payoff that they were owed. You know, that's
Go
a
ahead,
real
Command.
violation of rules of play.
Pressure rate burned to 0.
It would be like if I was at a social dance and I'm like I start leading a Charleston, and the girl turns to me and
Traffic.
says, "Oh, I don't do the Charleston." You know, like
Order
Hey,
received.
what the hell are you
Um,
talking about? Why are we
How can we
here?
help today, Commander?
yeah, I mean, yeah,
Beginning the
exactly. It's
attack.
like the Charleston is part of the Lindy vocabulary. You know,
Take
unless you're
him out.
like physically disabled in such a way that you can't do a swing out,
Aye,
for
aye,
example,
Commander.
or you don't
We're
know
moving.
it. You know, like I can
Aye,
adapt to
aye.
people not knowing things, but for an elite dancer to be like, eh, I don't do this. I don't do the Charleston. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I
like
just don't want
it's
to. I don't feel like
outside
it
the
right
bounds
now.
of acceptable play. You're not allowed to do that.
Acknowledged.
That's a
That's too far from
tremendous social
Understood.
error.
Engaging.
Yeah,
Standing
it's
by.
rude. It's just rude.
approach, Commander.
Like, why do I have to explain this? Oh, it's a millennial. Never mind.
Yeah.
Aye, aye. Full astern. Beginning the attack.
That's what I like about. I mean, that's what I prefer about my generation is we're returning to some degree of social norms. But they're different social norms.
Got you 5
They
by 5.
often suck,
Awaiting
or
orders,
they're
Commander.
too complicated, or just
At the
too
ready,
a little
Commander.
bit too harsh to properly settle in sometimes. But by God, it's really nice to just have them.
No.
Moving out.
Whatever the false Gen Z might have, they will dunk on
How can we
millennials
help
when
today,
millennials
Commander?
deserve it, and it's really nice. It's really refreshing. Gen Y was never going to bring the heat, you know, that millennials needed. Never going to happen. Gen Z is the surprise. It's like what? Like I can't explain it. Don't need to know. I just enjoy the dunks because it's been long overdue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, why didn't you show up to this thing that you said you would show up to?
Ooh.
There's
Have you
there's
noticed
a
that
big one.
millennials are flakes?
Yeah,
Have you noticed that?
yeah. No, dating the one awful thing about dating in Philly was anytime I had one with somebody who was older than me, with one exception,
We have secured Zone Eclipse.
Standing by.
and only one exception, was
Aye,
just
aye,
all right
Commander. Moving out.
if this person was at the time I was 21, so if they were anywhere between like 18 to 22, then it was probably going to be great.
No, there was a millennial dude. Like we're taking out the romantic element, which of course is a whole nother subject. But like,
Right.
no, there was a millennial dude that I invited to a board game night at my house, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll be there, I'll be there." And
At the ready,
So-
Commander.
most people would be, like find an excuse to bail. Maybe the morning of, like, oh, I got to take my dad to the hospital.
I gotta fold my
can't-
laundry at like 3, and
Yeah,
Gio, if
and-
you're
and it's like-
watching, we're still gonna make fun of you for that.
It's like,
Aye,
okay,
aye,
you're
Commander.
you're a flake
Moving.
because you waited till the day of. You're still a flake,
Ready.
and I'm never going to invite you to anything again
We're ready
because
when you are, Commander.
Okay.
because I can I think I can read the situation. But no, this millennial dude, he's like he doesn't even do the excuse. He doesn't even flake. He just doesn't show up. He stood me up, and it's
Just
like
didn't say anything.
No. like if a girl has the I think a pretty girl has the right to stand me up if I'm like outside of my
Copy that.
my
Moving.
place. If I presumed too much, or if she just flat out got a better offer from a better looking dude. All right, fair enough. That's the way the game is played. I can live with that. But a dude, I was like, coworker. You're a coworker.
What kind of hot? Is he really such hot shit that he doesn't have time for
Understood.
this?
Engaging.
Yeah, so like my friend there was like,
Stop
hold
the
up,
ship.
hold up.
They're gonna
Oh,
learn
he's
today.
playing a video game with this other coworker
Understood.
friend of ours.
Engaging the enemy.
Right,
Go ahead,
like right
Commander.
now. He's like, he's not only not here, he's like playing a video game.
Copy that. Moving.
And
Couldn't
it's
wait
like,
until Thursday for Fortnite.
like why couldn't you could have flaked. You could have been a flake, or you could have said no. You could have done, but like no, you had to like permanently damage the relationship in the same way that a girl would do to you in order to encourage you to direct your interests elsewhere. It's like, you faggot. you total faggot. Like what the
Aye,
hell?
aye. Full power.
It's
I just
upsetting.
don't understand why. I don't like who raised you to behave
we do for you, Commander?
such a sorry way. It's pathetic.
Negative.
Yeah, it
That's
sucks.
too far.
Nobody wants to interact with somebody like that because
Not
it's just
within effective range,
every
Commander.
time that you do interact with that person, you're being
It'll be
punished
done,
in some
Commander.
capacity. There's a lot of the young players that I have access to on my server. They're totally fine. I mean, you've seen the screenshots. I post them every single time it happens. Hey, if you want to play this character, your character's in time jail. If you want to play this character again, you're gonna have to make a. Or if you want to play it in another session before X date in calendar, you're gonna have to make a new character. And they just say, okay. Every
Yeah.
single time. Okay, that's fine. Sure thing. Should I make 2 characters? Should I make another one just in case
Copy that.
this one
Moving.
gets locked in time jail and I want to play in another session? Oh man, it kind of seems like you're really invested in this person I just met. That's exciting.
Yeah. No, role players are the least imaginative people you will ever meet.
Mm-hmm.
How can we help today, Commander?
That's why I came up with the Battle Braunstein, and none of these people that have been playing for
Standing
40
by.
years ever thought to do
Send
this.
your traffic.
None of the people who play LARPs with one-to-one
Ready,
time
Commander.
ever thought, oh hey, when we
Can't
play
use that
D&D, we
phone.
could do the same thing too.
Yeah, kind of weird
Not
to call it LARP time in that context, given that like nobody
Roger
did it.
that.
It's really
So strange.
Command.
Why would somebody?
the,
What an
the-
odd
the
nomenclature.
An eclipse.
the folk variant of D&D is so persuasive
Standing by.
that people can't imagine that there's anything else to it.
Receiving.
And God bless the 4th most important person in D&D for changing that for us and changing the environment so we could come along. I'm going to give my thanks now to Matthew Mercer
Missile away.
How can we help today, Commander?
for changing what people thought was possible in D&D by including giant bad guys, over-the-top villains, people who couldn't faction play. The idea that your actions would have consequences on a world map that was well outside what you thought was possible. He did it all. He walked so we could
Really?
run.
Brace for impact.
Yeah, he just he need his
Zone eclipse.
fatal mistake. This is the reason why he's number 4 and I'm number
Missile
3.
away.
Right.
He never told people they were doing it wrong.
That was the big, yeah, that is the big problem. He never said, guys, it's not the voices that make me awesome or this campaign awesome. It's all the loot, it's all the big bad evil guys, it's all the companions and NPCs that my players are allowed to pick up. We're doing artifacts, like a new artifact every week. They're fighting Vecna. We're not worried about encounters being too easy or encounters being too hard. They're going to new places. The players do what they want. They go to places that they want. They told me via a backstory. All right, that's something people were a little bit nervous about. That's okay. We're not going to nitpick it too much. They told me what they're interested in. This guy wrote up 5 pages about a vampire killing his family. I bet he wants to kill a vampire. I bet he wants some revenge for that. I bet he's interested in playing some kind of campaign that involves a vampire. So I'm just going to do that.
The enemy is securing
Fantastic.
zone boxer.
Why would you
We're taking fire.
why would you
Commander.
do anything else?
Awaiting orders. Commander.
You know?
Send your traffic.
Why would you ignore the
Low
player's
missile
urges
warning.
there? That's the idea.
All missiles expended.
It's gonna work. Is he out of point of oh.
Warning.
Jeez.
Component disabled.
Anyways, are you still there, Jeffro, or did my audio screw up?
No. I'm
Missiles are
still here. I
almost
just
depleted.
There you go. Had to
for,
meditate.
for one moment, I just didn't.
All missile
It's
tubes are
amazing, but like
empty,
I think I
Commander.
said all I had on the topic.
No, this is awesome. I'm super excited for whatever comes next and what the Battle Braunstein has to offer to us. And I look forward to instructing people on how to repeat it. Because I think that's the thing that we need right now.
Zone boxer.
There's too many dumbasses out
Go
there
ahead,
that don't know how to
The enemy is securing zone
interact
boxers.
with the wealth of media.
They're taking
There's
shots
just
at
too many
us.
people who are not game designers who keep trying to play at game design. So it's just our job to do it for them and say, and when they screw up, because they're gonna get hubris and they're gonna think, oh no, that's for other people. That's for people dumber than me. It's like, no, you are the dumb person I'm writing these instructions for. And when they fail, you can point to, you broke rule 3, 6, and 8.
Commander, a module was
Jackass.
destroyed.
We told you what would happen, and it happened.
I've been talking to Crossface and B-Dubs about this, but like we really
They've got us dialed in.
the new blood. We
Got you
needed
5
an
by 5.
infusion of new blood. Like we needed another campaign with multiple refs and things happening. People
Power.
trying things in a different way than we had
Send
would
your
have
traffic.
been great.
Securing zone atlas.
You know, embracing the principles or copying what works the best. But the failure of that campaign is of the Braunstein Adventures campaign is a real problem. Like, you know, it had so many good things happening, and having it collapse like that is.
Yeah.
Commander.
Imagine screwing up so bad that for the first time in 4 years, the detractors of the Bro SR actually had something to talk about.
No,
What a colossal fuck up.
Enemy fire incoming.
It's a significant setback. The other thing it did is it took all the air out of the room, so that it took the energy that
Component
probably should have
disabled,
gone into
Commander.
Brovenloft
Copy that.
this
Moving.
year, or something like it. you
Yeah.
know.
Component
There
lost.
was no big Bro SR stunt this year because Oriental Adventures was the stunt. You know,
Commander, we lost the module.
and but no, we need
We're being
How can
locked
we help
up.
today, Commander?
we need
We are securing zone atlas.
we need new people picking this. Like, if there isn't new blood, then the Bro SR is just gonna nitpick each other on bullshit that doesn't matter.
Yep.
Like
We're taking internal damage.
that's what happens.
Yes, Commander.
I was so much happier this summer when I had the face-to-face group doing
Understood.
things and injecting things into campaign that the
taking
old
internal
hands, the longtime players
We're on our
in
way.
Trolopulus could then engage
destroyed.
with.
Mhm.
They were excited about it because, like, they don't like me. They don't like my ideas. They don't like the stuff I make. But, you know, these other players making, causing stuff to happen and creating conflict.
How can we help
I
today,
think they
Commander?
were intrigued by some of that, even if they didn't necessarily appreciate what I was doing to set it up. But yeah, I think new blood must be a priority that people that have sort of like, I don't want to say an evangelical,
Acknowledged.
and I don't want to say proselytize, but like I'm like some kind of hospitality. I know most role players
Copy that. Moving.
Ready.
will take advantage of your hospitality in a way that you don't really want them to. But if there's any way that we can be present for the people,
Go ahead.
if there's some way we can convey some kind of successful gaming experiences to them, I don't know if that mentoring, like taking them into the campaign, is there really any other way to do it than to mentor them directly? I know like you're working on having rules and stuff replicate, but like
Getting along.
yeah, I'd just say that anybody that knows how this stuff works and has an opportunity to bring somebody in, just go for it, because
Beginning the attack. Aye, aye. Full
those you can't persuade people. You know, people can experience like you know, like not John Jaker, like
Go ahead, Commander.
he was never going to run a battle Braunstein if I just sat there and posted tweets about it on Twitter. That was never going to happen.
Yeah.
But like he came in and played Doucheland last week, and you know, 5 days later, he's like, "Ooh, I got an idea of running this in Long Florida. Here are the factions." You know,
now he's
it's
finally
like,
going to do it.
Like and now that his campaign is one that doesn't use 1-to-1 time because he's got players that don't like it. But now the Braunstein moved over there, you know. So yeah, whatever it takes to get somebody to solve a problem that they have in a game that they're running using any of the many ideas that we have explored by this point. I think hosting games where people that you don't normally play with,
We lost a component.
has to be on the itinerary.
Yeah. No, that's a Shomas Valley game, and I've been lax on the session reports, not in making them, but in posting them. Those are going up on the site this month. We're starting with all the November sessions, which was a stupid thing for me to commit to, because I think we've had more sessions in this month from more referees than in any other for the past year. We've had so many going off at the same, like, people doing. I think last week we had 4 or 5 sessions, and one of them was for a different referee.
Shoot,
it's been so good, but I'm just recruiting for the D&D server.
Yeah,
I'm just bringing people in and saying, all right, we're going to teach you how to do this. This is how it goes. We have some people who've never played even 5th edition before, and they're doing this for the first time. And they're starting off in a level 8 game with all my stupid homebrew nonsense. That's like my 5.5 edition. And they're still taking the 1-to-1 time, downtime, domain play instantly. Their first question is, can I run like a blacksmithy so I can catch some extra gold on the side and help out this domain?
That's really interesting that players don't struggle with the concept. It's only people that are committed to conventional play that can't imagine how it works.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Commander, we lost a module.
Like when I tell my players the time rules, they just go, "Oh, so like if we don't play again until next Saturday, then my character will have like 7 days to do whatever they want." And it's not like, well, they got the kind of timekeeping thing. They kind of got like a little bit of a timekeeping. Gary talks about it on page 29.
Later, on day 54.
On 54, and it might have been, actually, that was like from day 25, but like, I know that it says day 51, and then 4 days later, and then day 55. Don't worry about that. Actually, it's like, you don't understand. It's strict timekeeping. That's the idea. It's strict timekeeping, and just don't worry about the other stuff. Yeah, they don't have to worry about that. I just give them clear, explicit instructions, and then the people who can hang stay around because they like it.
No, I did watch. I probably don't tell you this enough, but I'm going to tell you again. I listened to a video from before when you did the
Go ahead,
the
Commander.
FAQ on timekeeping, and it gets to the
Stop the ship.
the time rule gets alluded, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. every time it's like veers into the okay, how does this actually work? It's like, no, I'm not explaining this.
Yep, just I'm not doing it again. That's why I made that video. That was supposed to just be the video that everybody references when they talk about one-to-one time. There is no explanation that comes even close to it in quality.
Yeah, it was. I was never going to unpack it with that kind of precision. I know people wanted that, but it was just like, not, and certainly not extemporaneously. In front of a hostile audience, you know.
Yeah.
Understood.
But no, that was just a tremendously useful thing to have it broken down that way. I don't think I ever used the phrase time jail until you coined it. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't know.
Was that oh, Jesus. That is a praise, by the way. But yeah. Crap, I didn't think that I made that one.
Yeah, who knows at this point? We're sort of like the Bourbaki of gaming, like.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like it's.
It's so the only reason I came up with that stuff was because I spent two to 4 years arguing in Aaron the Pedantic server about what one-to-one time was. And had to go through the arguments with particularists like 60 times in a row. No, I know that you're undergoing brain damage. No, it's not. I know that there are actions in the game that can take longer than 1 day. That's not what this has to do with. And just being rigorous with people about like, nope, this is the design objection. This is what people are talking about. This is the value that it has to game design. Gary's name virtually never comes up in the conversation, which is why I shit on Black Lodge Games. I'm glad that they've gone to the gym finally, but guys, we do need to have a discussion to help you guys out with some misconceptions. I'll happily do it.
I know where.
Magnanimous person.
Renninger's got it. The Frank Mintzer.
It was Frank Mintzer.
Is where jail comes from, and he called it training
jail. Yeah, it's a little bit weird that people keep telling us that nobody ever played with this thing that kept them out of a session because their character had not spent enough, because their character had not caught up to the rest of the time.
Yes.
People are really insistent that just never happened.
Yeah.
And even if it, to be clear, if it never happened, I'm okay with being better at D&D than Gary was. But it kind of seems like it happened.
I don't hear these arguments anymore. I feel like, I feel like when How to Win came out, and How to Win had stuff that it went a little further. You went like deep into the technical, and I went broad into the culture.
Yeah.
And when you put the two together, it was just like, oh, there's like literally no way to argue this anymore. There's not.
Yeah, there's sniping and back channeling and trying to tell people, oh no, when they talk about one-to-one time, they actually mean LARP time. They actually mean this other thing that just doesn't matter, and that's all they have. That's all they have. They just got nothing. The fact that I'm sorry, it's embarrassing, Rick Stump, where you gotta go behind the scenes and talk to somebody for somebody's shitty Substack article that because they're the one person that'll listen to you when you say that we're doing one-to-one time wrong, or that we have a different definition of one-to-one time than it should be, despite the fact that we basically coined it. And we set the terms.
No, it's in OD&D. It's in. It's in there.
Waiting orders, Commander.
Uh, yeah, I don't know.
Send it.
Yeah, the only thing I would concede is that and now this is
Enemy is securing zone
this is like so pedantic. It's like
On the move.
to even discuss it is just super boring. But like the fact that the Gygax uses numbers
Commander, we've
for
lost
the
a module.
days implies that he is not necessarily using the real world calendar the way that we do. So if you have and then again, then the strategic review quote, we know that he wasn't 1-to-1 with the real world calendar, no matter what. That's the way we play. It solves so many problems.
We've been open from the very beginning about time jail is a procedure. When I tell people that people can give me one downtime
Commander,
action
we've
per
lost a
week,
module.
that's not a rule necessarily. There's nothing about time that implies that I should be doing that.
The enemy secured zone
But it's a procedure because there are certain priorities in the game that can't be instantiated through the rules. They have to be kind of inferred. Like one of my big ones that I've been harping on you guys for is like, you gotta clear more than 10 rooms in a given night or you're not playing the game right. Another one is you have to be able to, people need equal space at the table to give downtime actions so they can make use of time between sessions. If the referee has to spend all of their time adjudicating every single day for a single character or a single patron between sessions, that's not fair to everybody else. Nobody else gets to play the game anymore. Right? And so that's something that you can't necessarily make a rule on, but you can make a procedure. That's up to the referee.
Damage control.
The reality of D&D is that you only have the resources that you have, the time and people resources that you have, and our time and people resources and attention resources are not the same as what Gary took for granted in Greyhawk. That is objectively true.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, as a referee, you can be faithful to the intent of the game, you can be faithful to the rules of the game, and you can adapt it to the resources that you have available, particularly if you are fluent in some of the ideas that the Broasar has been exploring.
Yeah.
But the idea that you have to run it like only our critics expect us to run it exactly. That if Gary didn't run it like us, then we're completely wrong. Okay, yeah. They love that one, but then is it who is the real Gary? Is it the Gary that wrote the DMG or the Gary that answered forum posts?
Forum posts in 2002. Does anybody think I care about that shit? If I endorse AD&D, that I care about what Gary said about it 30 years later? I don't even endorse what Gary came up with for the game 2 years later. Those alternative unarmed combat systems are lame compared to the DMG, compared to the players.
There was a guy on Twitter the other day. I was like, man, you haven't even tried to play the parts that were written in all caps. And he was like, huh?
yeah, the idea that like, oh, what Gary said that you could do whatever you want. It's like, did you read the parts where he calls you a dumbass for believing him? Maybe that's like there's something in 5th edition. Glad that we came up with this after 50 years. Don't worry, guys. There's hope for RPGs yet. Something came up in 5th edition.
See you, Crafty.
See you later,
Crafty. Jumping in, dude.
Specific trumps general. Specific trumps general. If you have a barbarian class ability, normally you're not allowed to jump more than X number of feet, but the thief over here says that you can jump more than X number of feet. That just means that in the case of the thief, that there's a specific rule which trumps a more general one. Okay, so maybe the general rule is you can do whatever you want, But then you have 200 pages of rather explicit instructions on specific things you must do when in the described gameplay scenario. You must play combat a certain way. You must adjudicate the chase a certain way. You must do unarmed combat this way. You must use segments when these three situations come up. This guy's going to kill with a... this guy, if these two people are going to kill each other, and then you're going to look at the segments to see which one would do it faster.
This
and
sounds
that person
like
gets to do it.
Supreme Court justice type thinking.
Yeah.
Like that
Well,
sounds
because
like a
we're
legal...
as smart as those people, and so we're condemned to deal with an audience that is so far below us that they can only play. Sorry, go ahead. You had a wider point.
Well, there's another point. Is like, yeah, no, it's like, well, if Gygax, like Gygax has that long thing about like when to ignore a wandering monster result, and it was like, it's the worst part of the DMG. It's absolutely stupid, because it's like, one, DMG never tells you when to roll wandering monster checks. It never elucidates that particular unless I'm mistaken.
There,
I could very
I
well
was
be.
asking
But
about
it's
this
like,
earlier today. I actually do have some screenshots, but by God, are they hidden?
okay, but no, the idea of like you're gonna know when to suspend that kind of a rule is like, oh well, the players they didn't make all the dumb mistakes, and like, so it was like, what is all this stuff here for? You know,
Yeah.
shouldn't the wandering monster, like for us in the Bro SR, like the wandering monster is a chance to instantiate something new. Like I've heard so many session reports of people cooler than me running sessions where there were like several wandering monster results in the dungeon, and then the fact that they were there implies that something is happening at the strategic level, perhaps,
Yeah.
or that there's a lair nearby, or that something else, and you know, it becomes this thing of like Gary had prepped this scenario like comparable to say G1, the steading of the hill giant, and then the players show up and they're ready to go. We're gonna like tear this thing apart. We're gonna rip this up, and it's like, and then you get through like, bro, go with it, man. What the monster, the hill giants caught wind that the players were coming. Something tipped them off. Something happened, and yeah, or no, or maybe it's just coincidence. It just so happens that these monsters were coming for a powwow to discuss what to do about Doucheland. You know, like there's so much play there. You know, and like, but like Gary's like giving you like, yeah, you need to know. You need to know when to ignore that. And it's like, bro, you wrote this giant book of rules. Did you not like?
Yeah.
Maybe you can. Maybe if you tell me when to ignore it and when not to ignore it,
Or maybe the exceptions
there would
can
be
just
like a
stand on
rule.
their own, right? Maybe we could just, every time we cross that moral event horizon, we could just pretend that it never happened, go to confession the next week, and go
No.
back to the rulebook. Maybe I don't need to. Maybe the temptation will be great enough that I already know I'm going to stumble at some point. Maybe I don't need encouragement on that front.
Absolutely stupid people love that passage because, and this is something that John Mollison has pointed out.
Is it because it's the
You know.
only one written at a third grade level?
Yes, but like, they believe that if Gygax is wishy-washy anywhere, or that if Gygax explicitly gives you latitude to do something different than a given procedure, that everywhere that he writes in all caps is similarly going to give you the exact same latitude to either ignore it or change or what, you know, whatever. So, and that comes back to what you were saying about specific trumping general. Possibly, it's in the same ballpark anyway.
Yeah.
But you can't have that. You can't have that discussion with most conventional players. Like, I mean, if I meet a random person, uh, like the worst thing I could possibly do to spread BroSR ideals would be to go to a convention and mention what I actually believe about the AT&T game. Theory is like the greatest, because like all of the theory, people immediately on a war footing.
Yeah.
Like they're ready to go to war as soon as you say anything about what we actually believe. So you can't tell them. You just have to play. And that brings me to the disappointment. Like I'm talking about we need new blood, but like, you know, this guy local, you know, he saw he played dungeon
Oldies
crawls,
player?
you know. This was the local dude
Uh-huh.
who's an alpha D&D guy. You know, he saw me mix and integrate the activity of two different tables to create this like each session built organically on the one before, and the consequences fed forward, and the scenarios were like natural outgrowths of everything. It was some of the best sessions I've ever run. I sessions I've ever run, and every
The
session
Dragon Tower
was
sounded
different.
fucking incredible, by the way. Every time I read that, I'm like, this is D&D.
Wait, which one?
The lady, what was it? The wizard that had that had the 3 dragon eggs. That tower.
Oh yeah, no, that's the, like you just said earlier. You need to clear 10 rooms. We cleared 10 rooms in that session.
Hell
You
yeah!
know,
And a lot
it
of other
was-
shit
it-
happened besides that.
it was solid. That was solid. That was like the best, and that was like the shitty one-page dungeon that I made. You know, had grown into, okay, now this is a good dungeon now. It had with all the perspective, the play had made it a good dungeon by that point. No, he saw all of that stuff, and he could never humble himself and think, this is unlike any D&D I've ever played. And he'd actually told me, he was like, you know, one of the sessions, the first session that I played with the face-to-face group, he was like, okay, that may not be the best D&D session ever run, but that's like a top 10, you know, greatest D&D sessions of all time. But like none of that mattered. Like none of that mattered. If Crafty was here, he'd probably call him a scrub or something. But
We have
like,
other words that we could use.
the lack of curiosity is it really hurt me to give someone a tour of basically what is effectively my greatest hits.
Yeah, and for them to reject it.
Like, I know, and here's the to contrast it, you know, on the social floor, on the dance floor, like the amount of compliments I get, you know, like I do jams, you get recordings of them, and I watch them to see like what I need to improve, and it's like, well, you know, this one's pretty good. Like, this is like pretty solid execution of these dance moves that take months and months to master. And
With
you know,
other
it's not
people.
just anybody. You can, pardon?
With other people. You have to
yeah,
master it in the
yeah.
context of a social activity where somebody else could be messing up.
Well, like literally, like there's well, like blues dancing is very close, for instance, you know. And I'm at a social dance, and a blues song comes on, and so like I just do this move called a fishtail. It's a very basic
Understood.
move.
We're en route.
Standing by.
This lady walks up to me, and she's like, "Oh, do you know how to blues dance?"
Receiving.
And I'm like, "Yeah," you know, and then boom, she gets really like it's really close. It's just like,
Warming up.
okay, I didn't know that's what I signed up for, but like, you know, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
And like people are staring at us, you know. But like,
Because they can see it, they can feel the energy in the room shift.
Receiving.
yeah, right, you know. But that's a lot of
Standing
trust
by.
and a lot of confidence
Awaiting orders,
that
Commander.
someone is displaying there. And I'm not the best looking dude, and I'm not the best dancer around. But like, I go to a social dance, and
I mean,
stuff like
you're
this
not
happens all the
fat,
time.
so you have like a real leg up on not just people on your age, but people at my age even.
No, but
We are securing
yeah. So
zone
like
components.
stuff like that happens.
We're
Like
ready when you are,
I
Commander.
I go to small dance scenes, and like people want to dance with me because
Affirmative.
there's stuff they want to practice, and I'm their
Standing
chance
by.
to practice it. And there's just not that many great leads around,
Executing
and
your
they've
orders.
got to get in line.
Execute.
And it's exciting. It's exciting to
Ready.
have that kind of attention. It's
We're ready when
exciting
you are,
to have your ability be endorsed in that way.
Target acquired.
And I'm going to tell you, the
Cannot reply,
last
Commander.
group of
Target
people
is out of order received.
that will treat
Engaging
you
now.
with that kind of consideration and excitement and
Knock 'em
respect
out.
is role players.
I completely endorse
Copy
that sentiment.
Holding here.
See you later, Brown Wizard.
It's very irritating. It's
Yeah.
very disappointing.
The enemy is securing zone
I
boxes.
think that's the thing that's been really gratifying for me about running Chilmus Valley is I was having some of those moments with because I post in the D&D forum every week just about, and we got a lot of those new lame players who just ask 60 million questions and never show up to a session. I was just so over it. And one person who occasionally they don't flake, they just have health problems. And sometimes scheduling issues or whatever. Or maybe, you know what, maybe they are flaking in reality, but I don't care because they run sessions for me at this point. Just decided, like, hey, can I just run a session for you? And it was a session from a patron, or it was a session focused on a mission that a patron had given the players. And she said,
Yeah.
this sounds like a great one-shot. Can I just run this for you? You talk a lot about, like,
Yes.
including referees. And I said, go right ahead. I got to play for the first time in my own campaign and find out new things about my campaign I didn't know. And it was no longer my campaign at that point. It was it. The cat was out of the bag. It was now something
our
way more
campaign
fun.
now.
Yes, our campaign, comrade. Something way more fun that I could ever hope to
Moving
do
out,
on my own.
Commander.
And it was it just everything was fine from that moment forward. It's like, I could do this again. It was rejuvenating. And it's telling that was in 8 months, that was the first time I had that feeling where I felt rejuvenated from running and interacting with the campaign instead of feeling like something was being taken away from me. I really do think that conventional play selects for antisocial people who cannot interact with the rest of the
Awaiting orders, Commander.
with the rest of the hobby.
Oof.
Awaiting
Oof.
orders, Commander.
Terrible.
That's why I'm focusing. That is, at this point, that is half of the cause between my wanting
Aye, aye,
technical
Commander.
instructions
We'll hold here.
for this campaign. Is it's not actually about the rules. It's not actually about having like
Standing by.
new rules to
What can
invent
we
for
do for you,
people.
Commander?
What it's about is keeping bad people out of your campaign.
Moving.
Like putting procedures in there that like if I tell you that you can only do one downtime order per week, then somebody playing a certain elf knows the moment they start asking 60 different questions that they are out of line and need to stop if they want to keep playing. That's the real value of them.
Yeah.
Awaiting orders,
Yeah.
Commander.
And it's yeah, I think that's where we're headed next is basically building on how to win at D&D and focusing
No.
going back to focusing on the culture, the importance of having a culture that allows for this kind of campaign to come about.
You need a blind test. You
Falling in.
need somebody that doesn't know
We're
us.
ready when you are, Commander.
Take some instructions. Go do
Aye, aye,
something,
Commander.
and then tell
Moving
us what
out.
happens when they do exactly what we said.
Yeah. That's the next YouTube channel, the next YouTube video to go viral in that fashion will be that test. I think Doof right now is taking some of the advice. I think he's running an Axe campaign now, and he doesn't interact with us outside of me on the Discord server. I think he watched some of John Mollison's videos.
that.
But he reported the other day, he's like, yeah, I just started with a dungeon in a town. I started randomly generating some terrain. I started putting some towns down and just started connecting the dots. And I feel like I know this place now. And I have stuff for the players to interact with in a way where they're never going to get bored.
Ready.
If you told me last year that Mollison was going to play solitaire Appendix A dungeons with hex maps and stuff and do wilderness travel, I don't know if I would have believed it. Like, oh yeah, people are going to be all excited about that. But it's like, no, it's the first time anybody showed them how to play. It's the first time anybody showed them how the rules make a world for you and carry the burden.
Receiving.
You know, it's
We're reading.
nobody's ever seen it. Nobody's ever demonstrated it. You know, the session reports don't quite capture
Aye, aye.
the
Foreman on
extent to which the rules just make it work
What can
for
we
you.
do for you, Commander?
That's the most important part at this point. Is people think they have to fight with the rules to have a fun campaign. Because they constantly have this propaganda of you could do, I'm so cool because I ignore what the D&D DMG says. Did you know that 5th edition has instructions for how many encounters they're supposed to do in a given day? It's 6. Just 6 encounters in a given day are really all that it takes to wipe player characters out of resources, and fairly quickly. And nobody knows it because they all went around, all the old guard. And by the old guard for 5th edition, it's more like the 3rd edition guys who played bastardized AD&D in 2nd edition when they were kids, and then moved on to 3rd edition because it standardized all the stuff that they were already playing into a D20 hell. But just telling people constantly, yeah, you don't need the rules, you don't need to focus on this. Don't let anybody tell you about how you need to pay attention to the way that things are supposed to work. And so then everybody complains about how like the 5th edition monsters just don't work and don't help them any. It's like, well, don't get me wrong, 5th edition still sucks. Even if you start following the advice and its precepts and stuff like that. But god damn, it sucks a lot less. It sucks a lot less when you just pay attention to how the rules were originally supposed to work. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
We'll get
Well,
it done, Commander.
I think that's a good spot to call it.
Yep, that sounds good. Yo, thank you so much for coming on. You should do this. You should do this more often. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah, well, I knew that. Well, if we hash this stuff out on a Discord chat, we would just start fighting each other, and so it was just like, you know what, we better get in here and do the game talk time now before there's a flame war.
Yeah. Well, no. Okay, that's the last thing I wanted to talk about was you mentioning this stuff. You were talking about this guy who played in your campaign and just took everything for fucking granted that he admitted was the best D&D he'd played.
Aye, aye, Commander.
If somebody says
Yeah.
top 10, what they really mean is like, I have nostalgia for that other thing, but this is really the best. I'm convinced at the very least.
Aye, aye, Commander.
And still threw it away. And just what a motivation killer that is. When we were first talking about about this Battle Braunstein thing, I brought up my initial objections for like, hey, people keep flipping the table. This is going to happen again. It's going to suck when that happens.
What can we do for you, Commander?
It's not going to be good. And you mentioned like, hey, that's not your role. That's not what I want to hear right now. And I felt like I got it. It's like, no, this thing, even if this thing crashes and burns today, this needs to happen.
No, it was great. Like, I went on Twitter. I was like, this is my
Order
idea.
received.
If
Engaging
you want to
now.
help,
Standing by.
let me know. And then everybody that said I want to help, I put them in
Yeah,
the
we
group.
see 'em.
And I only talked about I only brainstormed with those people. That was like the smartest move I've ever done. Worst thing I ever did was try to brainstorm about how to fix Bro SR play with people that I insulted in every way imaginable.
Yeah.
Receiving.
It's just like, I get it. I get it. I totally understand. But just having that realization of like, no, this is not the critique phase. All right, we can have the critique phase after everything's over and done with, and maybe a curator, if a curator fails again, with to follow very basic and simple instructions that only
No, no, but and I remember John Mollison was like, "Oh no, not this again." It's like,
Yeah.
no, the old group can't do the new thing. If I'm going to go do a new thing, there needs to be a new group. There can be overlap between the groups, but it has new things require new groups every time. Like the whole Bro SR, the Bro SR was a new group doing a new thing. So like it's but even the Bro SR, you know, I don't know. I cults do, like Pundit was right. Cults do spring up in my wake, but I'm always in blazing a trail. I'm always blazing a trail. I never stop blazing a trail, which means that the cults that supposedly follow my directives like always come at odds with me at some point, because I will question everything. You know, I will iconoclast my own icons just to confirm for myself, does this thing work the way I think it does? You know, so yeah.
What can we do for you, Commander?
Yeah, I guess, and what I should say is I'm sorry for putting that stuff for basically coming out of the gate swinging on that idea.
The problem, it was 6 months ago, it was a problem because I didn't know how to handle it. And like today I'm more mature and a little more savvy, and it's like, no, I do know how I work. I know how my friends work. You know, it's like, duh. The solution was it was up to me to make the solution, not you.
Right. I can explain it after the fact. I'm not gonna make a new thing though. And so somebody's making a new thing. It's just time for me to get out of the way.
Receiving.
Let them do the thing, and I can make a YouTube video. I can make a YouTube video about it later. You know. It'll still be there when I'm ready to write the script. So that's what I need to be focused on.
Missiles are almost depleted.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to try the game again, and of course, playing with this, like we know from David Wesley himself, that like you fix the things that you think are wrong with the thing, and then you find out that that fixing it is not the solution. You know, so I'm prepared for the second round to go amiss, but you know, who knows?
Yeah. That won't make it any less worthwhile.
It'll be different.
We're underway.
It'll be different, yeah. But it'll solve some problems that other people have conveyed to me are problems. But you know, I don't know. There's
Orders.
I'm okay with every Braunstein being a little different. It's like
Yeah.
Information.
Because they are a game. They require some game design by necessity, and you know, it just feels, but it doesn't require a lot, but it does require some. And I know Bradford Walker was in here where he popularized the referee as Crom. You know, from the Conan stories, the uncaring god who's just
Right.
You know, and other people are very much true neutral, but I feel like in a continuing campaign at this scale,
We're underway, Commander.
lawful is the key. There's a good, well, no, it's law and chaos being harnessed together. You want
Copy.
you
Opening
want
fire.
you want a setup that produces enough chaos that the outcome is in doubt, and that engaging with it is exciting, and there's, you know,
Dialing
chances
in,
being
Commander.
taken.
Copy that. Holding here.
But that does require planning. That does require discernment. You know.
Understood.
And
We're
so
en route.
that's the law part right there. It requires we are doing games. Even if we only play it once, we're still doing game design in a way that we weren't doing before, because we were so committed to emergent play and bottom up and player autonomy that we and it worked. Even at scale, it worked.
Ready.
Surprisingly so, but yeah.
Orders, Commander.
So I'm hyped, but yeah, I don't know how to.
Awaiting orders, Commander.
I don't know how to.
The enemy has commenced camping.
I'm using a lot of judgment.
Aye, Commander. Moving out.
So it's different. It's just different. No, and I don't know how to.
Commander.
I don't know how to write it up into a recipe.
Ready.
What I'm
That's
doing
okay.
just yet. I could tell you what I did.
Orders, Commander. Aye,
That's
Commander.
it.
Instincts
Moving
like.
out.
That's the listen. That's the easy part for me. That is my role. I'll do that once the meal is finished.
Unfortunately, it looks like 6 people are about to run these things, which is amazing
Ready.
to think about. That's a lot of
Awesome.
Braunstein.
Yeah, we've got him now.
Yeah. But yeah. Great show. Thanks for. I didn't plan to do a show. I was supposed to save all this back for Ryan's show.
Turn to launch.
Oh, that's fine.
But
Enemy jammer.
darn. Oh well.
Standing by.
Enemy jammer.
Affirmative.
We'll just do it again.
Initiating target lock.
Hell yeah. Let's see here.
Standing by.
I knew that your game design brain was essential to this discussion, though. So yeah.
It's tricky. There's so many ways
none
to
of the
do
role
things.
Players have it.
Yeah, there's so many ways to do things incorrectly, or in ways that basically that produce results that you really just
Dialing
didn't
in,
expect or
Copy that,
really
Commander.
found undesirable. It's unfortunate, but it is preventable.
Awaiting orders, Commander.
And so I just keep taking whatever the
Engaging.
whatever the lessons from video games are that I can figure out, and
Awaiting orders, Commander.
the more that I have them, the more that I could just. Those are the guys who replicated everything for 50 years. So if I just copy them, or
Receiving.
provide some additional feedback from
What can we do for you, Commander?
their slice of the industry, then I
Commander,
think there's a
we've
lot we
opened
could copy
fire.
over.
We're running out of missiles.
I did not expect to.
Standing by.
My intuition. I had some cognitive dissonance because the patron play was so. Everybody wanted it. Everybody wanted it. Everybody was frustrated with it, but even when it was producing the best gaming that anybody had ever seen, people were still
We're on
frustrated
our way.
with it, and the people trying to implement it are
Spiker.
definitely frustrated about our ability to convey to them what to do. But it was just like,
They're locking
no,
onto
I
us,
feel like
Commander.
inverting bro SR assumptions. It's like we're not
What can we do
doing
for you,
anything
Commander?
different. We're just inverting our assumptions from a player-focused campaign to a campaign-focused campaign. That's
Yeah.
literally the change.
Oh, that's your kill shot there. You're getting so much better at this, by the way.
Guidance online.
You're getting so that's not me fluffing you or anything like that. That's just the case.
Oh well, it's the theme. Like when I ran the when patrons first came out, I was like, no, you guys are doing it wrong. I see something else we could do, and I did the July Braunstein and coined always on, and we had all this stuff happening. And it was like the fruit of that was to be like, stop trying to entertain the players and start
Internal damage
setting up your
done.
model world and just letting it go. Like
Standing by.
that was the shift. And so it's basically me. I didn't referee at all last year, so
Understood.
this is
Completely
basically me
lost.
coming back and saying, no, the specifics of how to do that are changing here
Commander,
because
the
I'm
module was destroyed.
prioritizing sustainability over everything else.
Mhm.
And also a game that I'm willing to run myself,
Which is
but no,
cool
it's
because
like,
you have to be able
Component
to.
disabled, Commander.
If you don't have.
when I set up the battle Braunstein, I had like 3 people come to me and be like, "What's in it for the players?" And I'm like, "No, nothing. There's nothing in it for you. I don't care about the players. That's the problem. I'm
Yeah.
sick of that.
Yeah, no, I totally understand, especially with like the number of ungrateful people and stuff like that. I got lucky. I've been running West Marches for 5 years or so, and I've been running a grand campaign for the past year. And so I have some people basically to shore up that initial difficulty or that initial lack of momentum. But if we figure out a way to capitalize and we can figure out a way to siphon off the people who are worth saving, if we can figure out who to put on the RPG lifeboats, who deserves a slot on the RPG lifeboats, we'll have a culture again. We'll have an actual hobby again. That's the part I'm excited about.
No, I'm excited about the Braunstein. It's easy. It's easy to add in walk-ins. Like, I'm like literally I had a walk-in. I'm like, well, we'll just put a group of orcs over here. You could run the orcs. See what you get. I mean, it's like there's always room for somebody else. You don't have to do a lot of planning. You're like,
Yeah.
You don't even have to give them something fair.
No, you don't.
Like,
the players go off to one new
interacting
location. Here's a bunch of kobolds. They're trying to resurrect this ancient white dragon. They have its head. They suck. But they have the most ridiculous win condition. But something special could happen.
The Battle Braunstein, the ability to just it's basically it's like running the campaign scale doesn't have to be an ordeal. It can be just have a party.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a party. People are gonna like talk. Stupid stuff's gonna happen. You're gonna get some stuff you're gonna need to adjudicate. But like, no, it doesn't have to be an ordeal. It can be the beer and pretzels campaign scale activity.
And beer and pretzels no longer has to be synonymous with conventional or boring.
We don't have to burn people out. We don't have to we don't need a big like with Brovenloff, like P. Alexander's girlfriend being like, "Hey, is everything okay?" And like he's in a week-long battle at Count Dracula's castle. It's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm like specifically not doing that. I mean, I regret the excitement that stunts like that bring, but like it's like I'm not gonna run it. I'm not gonna run that stuff. But yeah.
This will be good. All right, that seems like a good place to call it.
Good.
Oh yeah.
Let's really call it.
Yeah, this time. No, thanks again for hanging out, man. This is we gotta do this more often.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, everybody in the chat who I mostly ignored tonight. There were like so many comments that were awesome, and the chat was just tearing off. But my goodness, I'm excited to see where this goes. Everybody will happily. Ooh, one other thing. Use those cards. Use those cards. I'm telling you right now. Use those cards for the next session, just so that people have a record that they can keep, and it'll turn that session report from 6 hours of prep or 6 hours of writing to about 2, because I'll just have written everything out, and you can just post the image. All right.
Okay.
That's my last thing. All right, we're signing off. Goodbye, everybody.